Hello. So, I'm a student at Abbey University. I'm doing Jeanette. It's exam time, so I had to get all these babies out anyway, but I thought as I got them out, I might as well talk you through some of them. Maybe you're seeing this if you want to study English, maybe you're seeing this if you want to find out what's some good books or bad books. But yeah, I just wanted to share with you some of my thoughts on some of the books I've been made to read this year. There's quite a lot of them. Yeah, it goes beyond the camera. Yeah. Oh, there we go. It's not all of them, because generally sometimes when I don't like a book, I will just lose it. I want to say it's subconscious. I guess you could call this my books haul. Other questions you might ask is, how much do all these books cost? And I'd say quite a lot of money. I'm hoping to sell a lot of them on. Some of them I got second hand. Generally, literature degrees are quite expensive, so expect that. Let's go. Okay. This one's one of my favourites. This book is by Jackie Kay. It's called Trumpet. I'd studied it in my contemporary literature module, and it was so good. So good. I absolutely loved it, and it was not a chore to read it in any way. This is Jackie Kay here. Okay, so on a scale of 1 to scary, she's pretty scary. But she does write really, really good books. It's based on a true story. It's about a jazz player, a really, really passionate jazz player that dies, and the book starts when he has died. And basically when they're doing the autopsy on him, it turns out he's a woman. I know how it sounds. But this was one of the most moving books I've ever read. Basically, nobody knew. He had an adopted son, who didn't know. His wife obviously knew. Obviously, in the hands of the media, this would be a really, really scandalous story, and it'd be like, oh. But in the hands of Jackie Kay, it's actually really, really moving. You'd expect the main character to be the one with all the flaws and all the weird psychological, but it's actually cleverly every single other character who's a little bit jumbled and a little bit confused, and they're all running around like headless chickens. But when you hear any reports of Joss, the trumpet player, he's actually the most kind, level-headed person in the book. It's a really good discussion if you want to talk about gender and society constraints and stuff like that. I genuinely really enjoyed it. Buy it now. Northanger Abbey. I love Jane Austen, but I haven't read it yet, but I will read it and I'll tell you what I think of it. I think she's so funny. I just think she takes a really long time to be funny. She's not like Michael McIntyre, bash. She's like, I'm gonna be funny eventually. And she is, she's really funny, but I'll read it. I'll read it. I love this play. It's really short, it's really snappy. There's no massive emotional turmoil. There's no hard concepts to get. It's just mistaken identity, funny circumstances, quaint Victorian phrases and wittiness, and it's really cool and short and snappy. North and South, another slow mover. It was kind of like Jane Austen without the fun. Yeats. Really, really poignant poems. My favourite poem ever is called A Coat. It's actually a book based on it called Walking Naked, which is actually a really, really good book. I think I read it when I was about 13, and it really helped me develop as a person, that poem, just that poem. Look at the front of this book. This is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. You want good time? You want good time, yeah. The story I had to read in it was called The Secret Sharer. It's entertaining, quaint, short. Are you noticing that the word short is coming up in a lot of my positive recommendations? It's about doppelgangers and like alternate selves, and that kind of subject's really interesting me, so that was cool. This is The Passion by Jeanette Winterson. I personally didn't enjoy The Passion. It was slightly confusing. There was a lot of characters, and there was a certain level of background knowledge you'd have to have about the French Revolution that I just don't have. Don't buy this. My seminar tutor hates it. It's called Sugar and Slate, and it's by Charlotte Williams, and basically it's her moaning the whole way through the book which is quite a substantial amount of moaning about the fact that she's from the Caribbean and Wales at the same time, which would be fine if there was a plot line. I read up to like here, and then I was like, I wonder if anything actually happens in this book. No, there's nothing has happened, has it? She lives in Bangor, which is kind of close. This is apparently really, really good, but I didn't finish it because it was so long and I was so stressed. Look. Oh, there were so many characters and it just moved through so many different ages and generations, and it wasn't my style of book. The beach. Oh my gosh. I used to love the film, now I hate the film because I've read this. I'm kind of like really, really enjoying train rides and like being really happy in your little, small leg space, but you're fine, and just, a bit of a dirty window, but you're okay. And then somebody takes you on first class one day, and you're like, so this is what the world really looks like. That's what reading this book is like. It's like knowing what he actually intended the book to be like, and you'll never want to look at Leonardo DiCaprio in swimming trunks ever again. Really, really, really good. Such an adventure. Really short, even though it's quite long, really short, choppy chapters. Loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. And it really, really made me want to. If you're into travel and you're into like traveling and exploring and stuff like that, it makes you want to travel a lot. Even though the whole book's supposed to be a commentary on how ridiculous traveling is. I don't care, Alex. It makes me want to travel. You failed. I'm actually doing some illustrations on my blog for this book at the moment, for my art, because I really, really liked it and I loved the themes in it. And if you're one for watching the news, and if you're really interested in the 9/11 stuff that went on and all the stuff that's still going on with the whole tension between the East and the West and Islam and Americans and stuff like that, it's really, really, really good. It was like my favourite book on the course, I think. Yeah, it's probably my favourite book on the course. And it's really simply written but really charming at the same time. You don't get a lot of text on the page either, so you feel like you're reading loads when you're not. And it's called The Reluctant Fundamentalist, and it's by Mohsin Hamid. It's about a guy who moves to America from the East, and he goes to like Princeton, and he gets into a really good business. He gets consumed by the American dream, and he falls in love with a big-breasted, lovely, really lovely actually, American girl who's a little bit messed up. And then the two towers fall. Tension between the cultures and the lives, and you don't know who to believe in it. It's so heartbreakingly good. I learned something about myself when I read this book. I do not like medieval literature. It doesn't like me. We're not for each other. We don't get on. Plays without wenny at was so teen, a fonund haze he drawin, and the bishop starty than unto brind. I did say The Reluctant Fundamentalist is my favourite book, but this is actually probably my favourite book. If you used to love fairy tales when you were little, and you love the way fairy tales are like told and read, and like you love really, really rich language and like loads of imagery, and you can like displace yourself from reality, this is your book. It's called Elementals, and it's by A.S. Byatt, and it's split up into loads of really small fairy tales called like Cold and Philomena and Crocodile Tears, and they're all really beautiful. Some of them aren't set in fairy tale settings, but they're told like fairy tales. Very clever. And they're really heartbreaking or really, really fun and joyous, and there's a lot of like debate you could have over this. So yeah, that was my little book haul review thing. If you've read any of these books, or you'd like to, or you've got any more questions about studying English, or if you studied English and you're like, hey, I used to read those books, comment. I'd love to hear from you. David.